Hey, hello. How's it going? You're one of the few people whose Discord name is different from your Twitch name, and it keeps confusing me. Oh yeah, the stream muted? That's fine. Now I see, my brain goes in too many weird directions. I started thinking, like, if there was a way you could do a mute stream, you know, for people who are, like, have issues with hearing and stuff. But that seems very complicated, and it's not like something I should tackle first thing in the day. So, not necessarily just closed caption, but like more of like a stream that's designed around visual stimulus and stuff like that. Today I'm going to be working on, in the background, my stuff, but I kind of want to try changing up the format a little bit, and I want to be more focused on just like looking at different problems from viewers and stuff. So if anyone pops in and has like a question, that will kind of be my primary focus. I like giving advice. I like doing design critique. I like doing, you know, tech help. I've been I've been a network engineer for a while. I've played around with a lot of stuff in Godot. In general, I can usually figure something out if I have the time. So I kind of want that to be my focus, and in the meantime, I'm going to be coding and being not very entertaining. Excuse me. Yeah, one of the issues I've been having with the whole streaming thing is I think it's fun to interact with people, but all of Twitch is based off of being an entertainer, which is not my cup of tea. I like being more of like an engineer type, and working on things and solving problems. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And if people jump in and they expect me to be, you know, shouting and jumping around and playing Five Nights at Freddy's, that's not what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, if you have anything you want a second pair of eyes on, let me know. Also, I switched to the Heartbound soundtrack to play in the background. Because I'm pretty sure, like, I don't really have a lot to get to base this off of, but my guess is that Twitch and YouTube will probably deprioritize you if you have copyrighted. You have a copyright. You know, if they see you have copyright on it, copyrighted music. I'm working on a big random document. I don't know. It's like 50 pages. It's like a small Tower of Babel. Like, what do you mean by random document? One thing of how to go from idea to pitching a game. You're all into documents, aren't you? You're one of those people who writes a ton, and I can never understand how you do that. I talk forever, but writing just, like, it slows me down. Data weirdo. Data's really cool. Data's really fun. I just I am not like stationary enough to write it down is the thing. I'm not one just for sitting down and like typing it out or writing it out. My handwriting sucks anyway, so. Why are you all wonky? Is it because I changed the... Yeah, that's fair. Stimulants will do it. Okay, so it's half, that's why. So I believe I should just be able to... I'm okay with being wild. Okay, so that's still... I need to change the proportions. I made this little like overlay in Godot for that that one stream. I don't think my computer likes running Godot very much at the same time it's running OBS. I'm gonna try to get a new computer anyways, but there it is. What other data things do you do? I know there's a lot of people who play like D&D and stuff and they keep giant lore documents for fun. Yeah, like I'm interested what kind of data you collect. Do you like doing like instructional things? Do you like doing statistics and stuff? Why are you... Become smaller. Why will you not be smaller? Oh, that's why. I work as a producer, so I make a whole bunch of resources on how to understand projections for how much money your game will make. I worked as an arts admin for many years. What is an arts admin? So it's a lot like how data can be helpful to you. Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand how important and helpful data can be. But I'm interested in like, what is it that drew you to that? Is it just like what you do for work, so it's easy for you? An arts administrator. Yeah, what is an arts administrator? I understood the shortening. I didn't understand the phrase. I haven't done a lot in the arts. I've been terrible at art since I was young, so I leaned into my strength, which was computers. Okay, much better. Right wide. Ran a not-for-profit for games as artistic practice. That's really cool. So like writing grants and giving folks money. That's really cool. I can understand why you would do a lot of documents. That is a very intensive process for grants and stuff. Yeah. I definitely, yeah, it's a ton of time reporting budgets and timelines. Yeah. I've always been somebody who's been very non-organized, like sort of what's it called? Improvisational, rather than very strictly writing things down and keeping track of strict timelines. And working in the corporate world has only made that more frustrating for me. It hasn't, really helped me get that. I'm getting a bit better, but it's just like I've always been more of a freeform kind of guy, kind of person. Why are you not in this margin container? And why does this margin container look weird? Reality takes all kinds. I'm disorganized as fuck, personally, and meticulous for work. Yeah. I think one of the, I'm gonna say problem, but, it depends on how you look at it. I think one of the problems with me is that I never really was able to separate myself into work and personal. If somebody, if there's a situation I'm put in at work that I find uncomfortable, I will find a way to make that work for me. There's definitely times where, you do what you need to do, but for the most part, like, my end goal is always to have my life be synced up. But that's something I kind of learned. I don't think that's very easy for the way that the world works right now. Most people kind of have to have that two-faced thing. Yeah. So having worked in nonprofit spaces and stuff, are you used to working in a team? Are you somebody who has worked a lot with other people? Like, I understand you probably would have helped teams do their stuff, get their grants, etc. But did you have, like, people working with you on that? You ran a very small team of 3 people. Okay, that's cool. How did you like working in a team? Are you somebody who's more independent, or do stuff on your own, the goal is what matters, or hated being a boss? Yeah. There's this fun study I always like to bring up of people are doing research on, like, a engineering team, and they were kind of studying, like, who's the best person to promote. And what they found was that if you have, say, you have, like, your engineers, and you take your best engineer and you promote them to being the boss, what you end up having is you lose your best engineer out of the team, and the productivity of the team goes down. What they found as well is that if you promote the bottom person to being the boss, your worst engineer, all of the remaining team become disinterested and work less hard, because the promotion path is not being given out on a meritocratic basis. So my sort of pet theory is that this idea of the boss being the manager is just inherently flawed. You know, like, you want it so that people can climb the career path that follows their interests, not that the only way to go up is to side rail into something else. But I always think that's very funny, that it's like, you take a group of people, take the best one out, and you lose your best person, and it sucks. And you take the worst one out, and everyone doesn't like it, because that's not how merit works. That's just one study, but I like it because it's funny. Being a manager is a different skill set than a lot of other things. Like folks should be able to stay in positions they're good at and still keep getting promoted and stuff. Yeah, but that's not how it works. The people who are most obviously and directly related to the executives in charge of the money are going to kind of be able to bend their ear, you know? It's a lot harder to explain to somebody why you need a security admin going around checking to make sure everything's okay, and then coming back and saying, yeah, no one gave me their password, versus somebody who's constantly, you know, giving documents, talking about all the different plans. Like, the way that corporate structures are is that hierarchy, and it flows upward. And so people end up eliminating positions because they don't think it's important, because they value the business more than the work, is my take on it. Like I said, I'm very jaded because I've worked in corporate stuff for a while. In my brain, one of the end goals, 100%, it just always one of those things, always big corporate stuff, yeah. In my brain, the end goal is to be able to run a more flat and equitable business, you know, for lack of a better term. There is one of the things that I really like was there was a, let me see if I can find it. Ooh, can I suggest you document it? Yeah, go ahead. Suggest me anything. I like knowledge. I like information. So this is an interesting production house. If you've ever heard of Brennan Lee Mulligan, Dimension 20, they do tabletop roleplay. They're decently popular. He sort of separated and went on his own with his friends to do his own little thing, and they came across this production house, Fortunate Horse, and it's run by a guy named Taylor Moore. There's a really interesting podcast with him. If you don't like the game, change the rules. About starting co-ops. Fair. On Game Arts International Network, I'm assuming. Okay, cool. Oh, they have a whole white paper thing. Okay, this is what I was looking for. So, this is a D&D podcasty thing, and they had on Taylor Moore, who runs that production house, and he talked a lot about how it was that he went about building his business and about building this sort of structure that he does, and about how a lot of it came from experience at Kickstarter and union organizing and stuff like that, where he's got like a lot of different people that he works with, and they all work on this like consensus-based system, and everything is accurately distributed. And a lot of his stuff came from organizing unions, and I believe it was organizing unions, but his time at Kickstarter showed him how many cool projects there were out there, and his time doing labor union organizing and stuff was showed how to like handle people, how to build groups, how to be equitable but still try to solve the conflicts and stuff. If you're interested, which it seems like you are, in building a business that is changing the rules, I would suggest you listen to it, because it's a really good insight into the stuff. And obviously snagging Brendan Lee Mulligan is kind of a huge thing for this company, and it works really well for them, Oops. Where am I? I have so many windows open. So there's that, if you want to copy the name. No, I sold my founding rights, though I have started about starting a different studio to work on a game for the Jam. Oh, cool. Selling rights is one of those things that I'm like, who allowed that? Who did that? Union Drive on itch.io. Union Drive is a short visual novel about workplace unionization. Fair enough. The art style, I like the variation in the character design. Is one of those things where it's like, I wish there was more shading. I wish there was more depth to it. There's a little bit of it, but they kind of look very flat facing. I know one of those things that's really hard to do is do a direct, like staring at the camera portrait. That's just a hard thing artistically, I've heard. Yeah, it's a very hard thing to render. Yeah. I like that it's phone shaped. I think a lot of people kind of ignore mobile as a good platform to do these sorts of things, especially visual novels are easy and low input. I mean, where I was when we made the studio I work at, I wasn't in a place that it would have benefited me or the company. I get the benefit of being an employee without the risks. I don't really understand what you mean by that. Where I was when we made the studio I work at, I wasn't in a place that it would benefit me or the company. Why you sold your founding rights. So you sold away your position as founder and then just became like a regular employee, like you sort of went down, not really went down, but that's how it works in the hierarchy from being a manager. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what I did. I didn't like found anything or start anything, but I, have been doing a lot of network engineering stuff and contracts and jumping around, and I've had the option to, go more hard into it, try to, shoot for a senior, like, director, manager, whatever role, but I just don't really care for it. I would rather have the freedom to do my own stuff than get stuck with someone else's idea. Like I said, I'm stubborn like that. I will try to make things work for both sides of me. Okay, I need you to I need you to get somewhere in between those two lines. There we go. Okay. I don't know why I did it wrong on this one, but we'll change it. I think it comes down to the point of, like, most people would agree if they had the chance of, like, you know, do you want work to be a compromise or do you want it to be a part of your life? I think most people would want it to be integrated, but that's not the way that things are right now. There's a line I always quote from Catch-22. There's a net or a Hulu series. I think there was. I don't know if it's still up, but there's a guy who's like doing arbitrage and like moving things back and forth, and he's trying to explain it to somebody, and they're like, "Wait, why would they buy it from you if it's a cheaper price over here?" And he's like, "Because they've never done it that way." He's like, "But why would they buy it from you if it's more expensive?" It's like, "Because they've always done it that way." And I just always say that to people. It's like, they've never done it that way. You would be surprised how much you could get away with just habit. Should probably integrate that into here. Oh, I did. Good job, past me. High five. This was just a random font I picked up out of itch. So it does have a little bit of weird issues with scaling, but I'm not going to put that much time into it. Wrong one. Did you work in any engine previous to Godot? I played around with each of the engines pretty much, but basically, like, when I first started getting into game development stuff, I took my inventory, I saw that Godot was open source, which I like and support, and I also just kind of feel like it's got a much bigger future than the other ones, so I stuck with this pretty heavily since the beginning. I was like when Godot 3 came out, that was kind of when I started trying it. But I have worked with other engines a bit, not a ton. The idea of engine hopping seems intimidating. I think it's one of those things that's just like, it's weird and hard at the beginning because it's not what you're used to, but you can get used to it pretty quickly, you know. I think a lot of people run into that issue with computer science like stuff, like, you know, different frameworks, different languages, different blah blah blah, and it's just up to you if you want to learn a tool, if you want to learn a trade. I think Godot has a much bigger future. I think you can code in any language you want because there's a ton of bindings for it. But you know, there's never going to be a good time to entirely change your routine. It's just, you gotta treat it like an experiment, you know? Try it out. If it doesn't work, then pop out. Hey, Chappie, how's it going? You still working on your Great Plains stuff? Fix the player? Oh, that's cool. I think I saw that before. I think you were talking about it. Did you get the terrain working? Or is that your next step? Terrain's still bugged, yeah. It takes time. I'm surprised you got the player stuff done so fast, so good on you for that. It appears in the editor, but when it runs, it does something crazy. If you're using add-ons, you got to make sure that you're using similar versions to what it was made in, because sometimes some weird bugs can happen. Yeah, I think it's cool that you're working on this stuff and pushing it to GitHub so that other people can show up and hang out and do what they can. It's hard to get that ball rolling though, so you know, keep at it. It's gonna take a while before people jump on your train. I don't know how to do this. Let's just have... Yeah, let me know if there's anything you get stuck on or, you know, want to talk about. I know that stuff can be very frustrating, especially when you're just pulling code down. Oh, contact monitor. Ugh. One of the weird things that I don't know why they do. Probably for performance reasons, but I'm not an engine dev. So Len, you said your goal wasn't, it was maybe to do like another game studio or something. Like what's your plan after your illustrious past? You just want to do like a standard game studio thing? Rest, yeah. That's fair. I think I'm just getting to the point where I'm like comfortable enough to tackle something other than work. There was quite a while there where I was really burnt out on it. Okay, it's getting some. I think getting better from burnout. There's a lot of pull. There was a lot of pull and arts organization through the lockdowns. Yeah, that is the worst time for that. That's something I think a lot of people don't think about when they're planning organizations and stuff. And I didn't have it in me to pull it through, and so I retired from being executive director. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people, when they're making ideas and businesses and organizations and stuff, one thing that they often don't think about is they plan for other people in their exact current state of mind. You know, like there's nobody who's like, I want to make a startup and have all these people work with me, but I also want a section for just people who are tired and want to do their job and go home at the end of the day. You know, like I think that's a really hard thing to plan for, is like you can only ever think about your own perspective and where you are, and it's very hard to accommodate for what happens if you're not that. There will be a new director will survive without me. That is something that I think not enough people are taught, is that like they're always taught like, oh man, you owe it to this to do whatever, to go blah blah blah, and it ends up being like all on the person. It's like the world spins, man. It goes, and if the world requires you to hold it up, maybe it's not the best system. Maybe that's not how things should be, you know? If you make a chair and I sit in the chair and the chair breaks, maybe it was meant to break. Maybe it was a bad chair. Maybe it doesn't need me to tape it back together. This is video games, not brain surgery. Don't worry about it so much. I mean, even in brain surgery and stuff, you know, like if there's a brain surgeon who's like ruining their lives trying to be a doctor, it's like, is it their responsibility to work themselves to death? And, you know, I think that's an unfair expectation to put on anyone in any position. There's no way to get the contact point because this is a rigid body. And I don't really want to code all the physics from scratch. So let's do something silly. I listened to Josh from Let's Game It Out talk about his wife, who apparently had a serious job, just wanting to listen to him talk about his silly YouTuber problems to decompress, which I thought was very wholesome. I haven't heard of Let's Game It Out. But yeah, I mean, I think people often ignore the interplay between serious things and normality. You know, everyone wants to talk about like, oh man, if you're a rocket scientist, oh man, if you're a brain surgeon, like what's normal is what you do day to day. And even a brain surgeon, and you know, there's plenty out there who just are like, it's my job, I do my job, I go and I do the thing, you know. And it's important to have that back and forth, you know. I think the entertainment industry is wildly overvalued, but I don't think it is worthless. I think there's a lot of space to have people playing video games and doing silly things, and people out there building rockets and fighting in wars and doing stuff, you know. Could you tell I lost my train of thought? So let's just do... Do I have a reference to the world here? No, I don't. So, unfortunately, we're going to do this really messy first. Entertainment also has a bad running on passion problem too. I wouldn't call that running on passion, I would call that deliberate mining of passion from people. Good morning, Mr. Fox Hollow Games. How's it going? How are you doing? I'm changing up my format a bit. It's going fabulously. Thanks for asking. I can't, like, I hope that you know, in my brain, there is no time I don't picture you with a bow tie, and that's not because you wear a bow tie, it's because of the personality you bring to the table. I don't mean it derogatively. That is a compliment. I'm trying to give a mental image that encapsulates how I see you, and that seems to just work for you. Kalu Kali. I don't know if you're casting spells in my chat. This is your first warning. I think I could just do 0, can't I? Oh, Fragiliste Kalu Kale. Alright, I'll allow that one. That one's pretty funny. Oh, there isn't even a set cell V, is there? The Jabberwocky. Oh, I have never read that. You're one of the first to get it. Good job. The only poem you've ever memorized. Well, now I feel like I should read it. But I'm lazy. So it's all layer chords and source ID. Okay. The Muppets do a performance of it. I need to do a print statement to see if it's actually hitting anything. I mean, I've tried it for like an hour. I basically, I want to try focusing more on working on my stuff in the background, and if anyone has any sort of feedback they want, or like tech issues, you know, coding issues, helping out with that. That's kind of just what I want to be more of the focus, not so much like I'm gonna work on my thing and then people can chat in the background. I want it to be more focused on like, if you want help, show up. You know, I'll try for sure. I'm not sure it's gonna work, but hey. Can you help me set up my printer? Printers, very well known in the tech world, are in fact black magic that has infected this world and cannot currently be exorcised. So you're going to need to go more of a different route for that. There's just, printers are terrible to work with and don't make any sense. They got stalled really hard on old technology. Call Doctor Strange, yeah, that's a good way to go. Get Benedict Cumberbatch on the line. Okay. Okay, it is hitting, but it's not doing nothing. Probably because I haven't converted this. Local to map. Hope it's going well. Going to be lurking. Need to focus on my day job. Cool, yeah. Thanks for stopping by. We are talking about the Jabberwocky and the terrible printers and how they are not good for anyone in society. There's a whole thing with printers and like patenting the different cartridges of ink and stuff. It's one of like the most egregious, okay, well that worked, most egregious cases of like people using copyright in a very hostile manner to prevent other people from doing things. I believe I'm remembering that correctly. Right to repair needs to be protected. Yeah, still working on that one. We got Apple, but only because the EU kind of was mad at them. There's so many things about copyright that frustrate me, and that's always one of the things that I feel like a lot of people don't hear, like don't think about to be like controversial, but I'm like, copyright needs a massive update or a full overhaul. And I have a lot of opinions about that. Can I do velocity? Linear velocity, that works. And then normalize it into about like 8. I don't even know why it's not colliding all the time. I found this bug. I'm pretty sure it's an engine bug, but I wanted to do cast ray, and that should make it so that the collision detection is a lot better. It should theoretically do collision detection from the point at which it starts the frame and the point at which it ends its frame. But what I found is that even though I can do full strikes over here, once it starts detecting a collision, it just sets it back one position and it totally ruins the velocity. So like I can't physically hit the wall from this distance when I'm using cast ray as the collision detection method. Oh, there it is. If I just run up to it, it works. But yeah, the whole thing is it's supposed to be like as this moves across the screen, and like let's say there's a wall here, from one frame to the next, it could be here and then it could be here, so it wouldn't hit this. But cast ray should theoretically cast a ray and determine, oh, okay, it is going to hit this wall, so we'll set it back to here. But instead, it's setting it back all the way here, which just ruins its velocity. It just means it moves nowhere and it has no movement. And then cast shape, I don't even know if it does anything, because I added on and it's still just flying through walls. I might have to do a custom integration for that, which is sad. Yeah, see, this is with cast shape on, which doesn't seem to be working because it's just going straight through the walls. Well, we'll come back to that when I figure out how I want to do it. For now, let's make an item. I suppose it would be a... You were also asking earlier about changing engines. One thing I think is really good that you can do with Godot, because it's open source, is that people can make different bindings for different physics engines. So this is just a plugin I installed that allows the Rapier 2D to slot in as the physics engine, which is very nice. Let me see, there's a comparison video that I can pull up, but there's a lot of known issues with Godot physics, and people can kind of just fix that. Okay, yeah, here, so. This is a comparison between all of them, and it shows you what's sort of in each. Rapier 2D doesn't have spring joint. I believe it does have move and slide. Yeah. The biggest thing is, where is it? So this, the falling squares, this shows the bug that's in, oh, it's not shown on stream? Dang it. I'm assuming you can see it now. Nope. Why not? Everything else is shown on stream. That's annoying. Why is Godot over top? Okay. That was my fault. I was messing around with that overlay stuff and it was displaying over everything else. Alright. Back to what I was showing. So this is the he does a comparison between different physics benchmarks. This one is kind of the big one. With Godot built-in physics, it is a known bug that when you stack too many boxes, the physics engine just goes berserk. So you can see right here, it stacks a couple and then they just start going crazy. And that's just a known bug in Godot physics. They're planning on swapping the backend eventually. But this is just like a custom binding someone made that kind of already does that. So you can see this is box 2D, it shows the total time, and it's a bit slower. Thankfully this one is faster, and it's pretty stable, it looks like. Yeah. I was experimenting with using Rapier 2D as the backend physics engine, but the problem is the way that I do this. So I wanted to have a physics, a more like physically based attacking system. At first because it was easier, and then now because it's harder. So these are physically rendered. It's just, you know, punching towards where the cursor is and then getting snapped back. And that's because of the way that Godot pin joints work. Godot pin joints don't actually straight up pin something in place. They allow you to give a softness and a bias to it to allow stretching on that pin joint. And that does not seem to have carried over from Rapier 2D properly. The pin joints in Rapier 2D just straight stick things together. There is no pull allowed, which is a bit rough when you're trying to do it this way. But yeah, I basically just use the pin joints as like a cheap spring to pull them back to where they should be, which makes for a very fun, satisfying little thing. Previously, I'd implemented other weapons in it, and it was really fun because you could like use your body momentum to make them more effective or less effective. I had like a sword, and if you just like came up and sideswiped somebody, it worked. You can see it even physically pulls on them, so you have to move forward when you're punching, unless you're moving backwards. it does seem very satisfying. It's just a lot of physics work to get it working properly and not doing this kind of stuff where it just goes in the wall. And also apparently collision, like checking where that collision happens is going to be weird. I might have to add like ray casts onto the hand and do my own cast ray, which is silly. Silly but necessary. So you were talking about your studio, or your idea for a studio, to work on the Game Jam project that, was that the Game Jam project that we saw on stream? The one stotch? I can't pronounce it. I need to review how you said that. You want to work on that more? That's cool. I really liked that game. I thought it was cool. I was very impressed with how much you were able to do in such a short amount of time. Wastotanash. Waskotanash. Is that like an indigenous word for, or is that just like the name of the river there? Like where did I don't know if you know where it came from. Anishinaabe? For the Don River. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. One thing I've been thinking about, because I'm trying to figure out in my brain how all of this online stuff would work the way that I want it to, but I was thinking about, rather than having like multiple people with their channels, I always forget you could just do this. Rather than having multiple people each with their own projects and discords and stuff, just trying to encapsulate all of that and be like, hey, if you have an ongoing project, you know, we'll have like a place for it in the Discord, and we'll do like checkups and, you know, maybe even collaborations and stuff like that. Because I think one of the biggest issues is that because all of this stuff is hosted on Twitch as an entertainment site, what you end up having is the ideal space for entertainment, which is everyone's separate, right? It's like the multiple channels thing. But when you're working on something that is a project, that's more of an engineering space, and that benefits a lot from centralization. It not only fractures the attention of the viewer, it fractions the attention of the creator, right? Like, how many people make Discords for like 10 people, and then they work on a project, and then they don't know how to do it, and they leave, and they give up? By sort of making this more higher level structure, you have it so that's like, people can ask for help, you know? Maybe if somebody from this project doesn't know what to do, they know that they can just, they're in a group with other people working on similar things, and they can ask for help. I also think it would be cool to do like a apprentice sort of system. Do apprentice/mentor. Of just like, you could have people on the Discord sign up and be like, hey, I'm available to like work with others and teach them, and then other people can, like, you could just have like a role system, right, where it's just automated. It's why I was interested in doing critique. Are you interested in doing critique as a way to capture attention, or as a way to like recruit, basically? The jam made me miss art school. Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems, I think, with the creative space slash sure, creative space. We'll include like engineering and stuff under creative, because, you know, making things in general. I think one of the biggest problems is that the only place you can really go where you have a ton of people bouncing around and talking to each other is school. Other than that, you're on your own. You're siloed. Everyone is separate. So if you don't make connections in school, if you don't find your business partner when you're, also trying to complete your course load, it's very hard to do it afterwards. And people experience that not only socially, but, career-wise, developmentally. And so I think there's not enough systems to try to just push people together, not necessarily bind people together. You want it so that you can have free-forming connections, and you also want it so that there is no obligation, right? Oops. You want those two things because that is what allows the most freedom per person, so that you can find somebody who fits well with you to work with. Now, I mean, it's really vital for growth to be with folks who deeply know your discipline to give you feedback. It's great to know random folks' feedback, but having others who know your references and can understand and speak the subtleties of what you might be referencing, experts commenting on your work is going to be much, much more impactful. And once again, I think it's very hard to find that because everyone's siloed off. I agree with you. But I don't think there's a great way to facilitate that without having a system for fluid connections between people, I always kind of come back to this. One thing that I've always struggled with is, if I was looking for myself, right? If I knew there was somewhere out in the world, a twin of mine, how would I get their attention? Right? In the entire sea of the world trying to get my attention, how would I signal to the one other person who's exactly like me, oh, this is where you go. This is how you find somebody who you can work with. And that's a very hard question. It's a very difficult thing, because this is what you want when you're working on something. You want somebody who, not necessarily yourself, you want different perspectives and all that, but you want somebody who's searching for the same things as you. But it's really hard to do that. And the best way that I found is basically the chemistry method. You put things in a pot and you boil them, You want tons of people running around, having random connections, and you want them to be able to leave if they need to. Because that obligation is scary, and it's also counterproductive to free-forming connections. That's my sort of philosophy about it. It's good philosophy. I mean, good is yet to be proven, so I leave that spelling mistake. Good. Sometimes you gotta stand behind the things you create, despite how flawed they may be. That was a joke that could only be told through text, so I did it. Why is this shaped so weirdly? There's no shape 2D or anything I could do. Dang it. Alright, well, here's what we're gonna do. That's not what I meant. Okay, very tiny little square. We're going to size you up. So you were talking before about that. There is a word, I'm just not able to think of it right now. That critique stream. What did you have in mind for that specifically? Like, what's your what you talked before about wanting to get expert opinions on specific things. Is that sort of, are you trying to provide as much feedback as you can to others? Are you trying to sort of get it back and forth? I think I just like talking to folks about their projects and where they can be improved. Yeah, same. Is it something you're focused on as like a pastime, as just like funsies? Or do you want to do more with it? Or do you have like plans for future things? I have too many plans for future things. I don't do enough as a pastime. I've been working on that though. I garden now. No, but I ran a program to help people start studios for around 5 years. Yeah, you like gardening? I've been getting into it. I didn't have like a lot of space before a couple of years ago, and even then there was a lot of stuff I had to clean up before things would even grow in the dirt. But now I'm like starting to get ready and trying to experiment with it. There's a person nearby who I'm supposed to be doing a seed trade with, but they have not responded to me. You have a tiny, tiny spot? Yeah, I was lucky enough to get a good bit of check dirt for heavy metals. Ugh. I don't think that should be a problem, but I really should check. I have some stuff growing in flower or in garden beds right now, so I want to start planting in the backyard. I actually was able to manage to get like a good bit of space, so it matters less if you don't eat it, but yeah. I mean, the plan is to eat it. Just not quite there yet. Water heavy things like sunflowers, yeah. There was this really interesting thing I saw on YouTube of somebody growing corn in like a lead poisoned area, and then just like the corn was like throwing it out, or was grabbing it out, and then they would just throw away the corn. Plants are in fact rad. I'm seeing a problem, but I also know the solution. Plant game when? I made a plant game. Okay, we're just gonna move you by 1. There we go. It was supposed to be my game jam submission, but I messed it up. Let me show it real quick. It's more of like a tech demo than a game itself. I'm not This was the first game jam I actually like completed, because other times I had issues with, I wanted to work in a team and it just didn't end up working out, and then this was the one I decided to go solo on. So this is, it was a quick little, this is really small for some reason. I think I messed with the screen sizing, so let's, actually that won't work, whatever. Yeah, so the initial idea was I really like genetic algorithms and stuff, so if you see, I think I can actually increase the speed of this, so yeah, turn that up a little bit. It's gonna lag, but whatever. So these are little genetic algorithms, and they grow based off of their own internal genome. They mutate. They have a set energy, and they actively try to adapt to their environment. So there's red cells, which eat other plants and ants. There's green cells, which transfer energy. There's white cells, which are sprouts that build out things. There's leaves, which are the lighter green, and they gain energy based off how many empty spaces are around them. And then there's the yellow ones, which gain energy based off of how much dirt is around them. So roots and leaves, right? And this was the whole thing. And then I have little ant guy here, and you can, I think it's an older version, weirdly enough, but you can pick up and put stuff down. And I don't know where my UI went, but you can make other ants that are sort of like lemming style. If you ever played that game, they just kind of move autonomously and do their stuff. But yeah, the main thing I worked on was this whole algorithm, because it's fun to me to mess with complicated things. And then I had to figure out how to turn it into a game afterwards. If you want to see a better version of the stuff I tried to do, there's a YouTube channel where I got the inspiration from. So he has a big, a lot of different simulation stuff, but it's sort of, a lot of the rules I stole from this guy, but it's interesting to see because he does it at a much bigger, he does it like over days and takes a time lapse of it. And he like documents all the different things that happen, but it's very fun to see the different ways that it goes. Yellow slime element to it, yeah. But yeah, this channel does a lot of generative AI stuff. So they have the artificial life simulation thing. I think this one goes a bit better over. Yeah, it's very interesting to watch. it's very nice just to see. And this is an explanation of the different cell types and what they do. And then he also has a lot of different things. Digital Garden, making, you know, genetic, or not genetic, procedural trees. Here it is. So yeah, this is a genetic tree algorithm. This is the artificial life. I don't remember what this one is. This is swarm intelligence, local agents, local information, learning, pathfinding, AI for Snake that genetically does stuff, the trees, more of the swarm intelligence stuff, sort of showing how they path, how that information gets traveled. This might be the traveling salesman problem. Yeah, a lot of stuff here, basically. The math is likely far beyond me. It's very neat field simulation. So there's not a lot of math in it. And it's one of those things that there's a lot of logic in it, but there's not a lot of like classical math in it, right? The only thing is just like you can play with the amount of energy that things take to live and how much they produce and stuff like that. But it is very much just what you see. It's on a grid, right? So the only thing you really have to think about is when you're on a grid, like if you have a guy here, you got to do the genome where it's like, you know, what does it do in that direction? What does it do in that direction? What does it do in that direction? Right? So it may look like it's moving along and doing all this stuff, but really all it is just every time a cell gets to a spot, it will die, it will turn into something else, and then if it continues growing, it just builds another one of itself up there with the next line in the genome, basically. It's a lot of logic to understand, but it's not a lot of like traditional math. That usually only comes up in like physics. Let's try this. Let's see what kind of weirdness happens. Oh, maybe turn off gravity. Get back here. It is really not liking that. Yeah, I don't know why it's having such a hard time actually getting collisions with stuff. Look at that. Very frustrating. Probably because I'm doing that. That makes more sense. Yeah, we'll leave that. Nope. Come back, come back, come back, come back, come back. Where'd you go? As somebody who is like, I'm gonna say, experienced and or an expert in the art field, how do you feel about the idea of like apprenticeships and like mentors and stuff like that? It's like not even hitting it on the way there. This is the wrong scene. I think it's good for multiple reasons. How would you feel about doing it personally? Like, what are the benefits and issues that come to mind when you think of it? Let me do it. One, especially in games, a lot of things are simply your network, and who knows? Mentorship allows both you and the other person to build those connections. I agree, but I also think that's not something that should be factored in. Connections are unpredictable. Connections are, you know, not something that I think should be relied on. As much as it might be nice just to, you know, especially for people who are more social, just like get a ton of people that they know and do some stuff. There are a lot of people out there who, you know, prefer to be more introverted, prefer to be more to themselves, not really the chattiest types, you know. I don't think people should be punished for lack of charisma in a creative space. 2, games like art both have linear, maybe, paths to joining them. Your skill set would need adjusting, and so having someone help you figure that out helps. Oh, 1000%. That is why the benefit of one-on-one mentorship. That's the benefit of one-on-one mentorship. One thing I think a lot of people don't teach enough is like the soft skills that are required for a lot of this new wave of entrepreneurial stuff, which is seemingly more and more the only good way to do things. I was able to get it to hit once, but not anything else. Like, if you don't like being social, having that connection over having to do it by yourself is really helpful. Yeah. From the mentor side, like if you were mentoring somebody, what do you think would be some issues that could arise? I'm trying to think of any other benefits. Yeah, take your time. I'm just chatting. I'm not trying to demand your attention or answers. I've been trying to avoid having to code the hand to do some fancy stuff on its own, and I don't think I can do that. Keep it built in for now. I think it'd be really disappointing when it doesn't work out and it can feel like a failure. I think that's one of the soft skills that a lot of people need to learn, is when you're working on something, you have to take ego out of the equation. You know, I think it's very cool that people can put a part of themselves into a project, especially creative projects. I think that can also crush people who want to put everything they have into something when they don't have any experience. And I think the exact same thing applies to mentorship. If you think that you fail because the connection, you know, the social connection didn't work out, I think that's something that needs to be remedied. You know, I think you need to focus on what is actually happening. And if it was a personal failing, reflect on that and improve. If it wasn't a personal failing, which oftentimes it's not, you shouldn't let that get to you. But there's a lot of reasons why people have been taught to take things very personally. And I think it's very counterproductive and very harmful. Games, I have this problem with tech because it's such a recent industry. I think the naming of things suck. So like IT as information technology, or as a lot of people just shorten it, just technology, is such a broad term that it becomes almost non-meaningful. The same thing with games. Like, game development is encompassing so much. It has, you know, art, audio, design. Technically, you can go into like composition, coding. There's so many different pieces of it that like game development is really what it should be considered as like entrepreneurship. I don't know how to spell that word. You know, it should be starting a business. Yeah, there's the game industry names for things suck, and that has its root. And just when I said I didn't know how to spell that, I meant that I didn't want to know how to spell that. It was a conscious choice I was making, not an inability. Yeah, one of the things that just bothers me a lot is like I talk about you have different genre names for like movies. So you have like romance, you have action, you have, I don't know, comedy, and they decently describe why you're there to see the movie. If you want to play a game, you have stupid names like Souls-like, Metroidvania, shooter, which can encompass both Call of Duty and Portal. And then, you know, you have simulation, like cozy. It's like the worst descriptors in the world. You have both roguelikes and roguelites. It's like none of these tell you anything about why you're there to play the game, you know, and it's so annoying. There was a paper released a while back. Let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, so somebody realized this problem and they wrote the MDA Mechanics, Dynamics, Aesthetics paper, and they sort of go over the different reasons why people would want to play games. Games literacy. That's a good one. But yeah, it's an interesting little thing of like they break things down into mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. Aesthetics are like the reasons you play a game. Dynamics are like the actual behavior of things, and then mechanics are like the actual rules of the game, right? So aesthetics are kind of like what you want from the player. Dynamics are like the designs that shape how the game works, and then the mechanics are like data. And I find this to be a lot better. It's not probably complete. I think there's a lot more you could express in here and do, but I think it's much better than our current system over here. There was a video on it by Extra Credit a long time ago that I found, which is how I found it. My favorite periods in games history is when folks were figuring out what to do with more than 4 buttons in a controller. Yeah. 3D design is really funny, where they're just like, you can look around. There's a lot of old games, so I'm gonna take an aside real quick here. So this is... Oh, he's live. This is Spiridon. I talked to him about his stuff. He is creating a game with Zig, WASM, and HTML. If you don't know what that is, it's basically he's making a web-based game where the backend is separate from the rendering, and it's very, very close, as close as it can get to efficient bare metal stuff. WASM is WebAssembly, so it's like basically going through and making one of his old, one of these old games that was one of his favorites, from like the Super Nintendo era or something. I can't remember. I think he has like a Twitch chat can play it kind of thing going on right now, which is really fun. Oh, Spiro, I've been saying it wrong. Spiro, but one of the things that we talked about is something that I've thought about before, and then I think is really silly. So as we've gotten further along in technology, back in the day, they used to have to do really crazy stuff. So the first Pokemon game was Red and Blue and technically Green, and it had a lot of like data packed in, right? It was early in the days of coding. It had a whole game packed into it. If you do glitches and you kind of put, you know, things around and like try to point things in incorrect directions, it's like there's so much in the game you can't really find empty space. You know, if you use glitches to like change a pointer to a different point of data, you're gonna find something. So just stuff to the brim with things. stuffed with things, sure. And then the next game came out, and that was Pokemon Gold and Silver. And after you beat Gold and Silver, which has more than Pokemon Red and Blue, and first gen, you can actually go back and play the entire first generation. The post game for Pokemon Gold and Silver is going back, and you can replay all of the original games, the Kanto region. They remade it all. They shoved that entire new game in the second, or the entire old game in the second game. This is how tight data management used to be. This is how things were when they had to run on cartridges. This thing had an internal battery. They stapled a battery onto it because otherwise they couldn't do clock-based stuff. So they made a day-night cycle by giving it a battery, and having it run its own internal clock 24/7. That is how this game worked. This is 7. This is how things worked. You know, people push the limits of things. Now, in modern games, we have enormous bloat. We have so much wasted space, wasted data. People are just throwing things out there that are hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes for no discernible reason. You know, when you look at data, what ends up happening is like you have these big blocks of memory, and you can allocate certain amounts of it. So like, let's say I'm only using this much, and then all of this gets wasted, and that gets applied by multiple millions as you go through different bytes and stuff. And there's just lots and lots of bloat and waste and stuff as the games industry expands. And that's one of the reasons why Spiro over here is trying to build things as close to bare metal as possible. There's a lot of waste, and it can be fixed, and this is just ignoring a whole range of low-end devices, of people who don't have the money to go buy a PlayStation 5 as soon as it comes out. Like, a lot of these games could be properly done, and they just aren't because that's the way of the industry. So that is something I think is really cool that he's doing. And it just like kind of, there's a lot of different things to tackle, like the debt of old, of the industry as it's progressing older, because it is a baby industry in the grand scope of things. That's not what I meant. If I want to show them on screen, I might as well shout them out in the chat. Anyways, rants. Ranting. Always ranting. Never stop ranting. He's a good rant. Oh yeah, that game that he was basing things off of, the old Super Nintendo game, had like economic systems and like arbitrage in it, and it was like an old RPG, and it was just like, yeah, we'll throw that in as a side gig. Like, people used to do some really crazy fun stuff, and now they don't. They're stuck to their genres. That's one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of game jams. Got sucked into Wikipedia and learned the term losery attitude. What is that? Accepting the cognitive or the constitutive rules of the game just because they make possible playing it. To play a game is to engage in a voluntary attempt to overcome unnecessary obstacles. I think one of the things they talked about in that podcast was the idea of like, what is a game, right? Like, what exactly can you define as a game? There are plenty of people who have to like travel up a mountain, and let's say there's something at the top of the mountain that they need. Well, they just, you know, they could just take like a helicopter and go get it, right? Like there's medicine up there. You just go grab that, harvest it, come down. But there are also plenty of people who travel up a mountain as a actual, like, as a thing, like as a pastime. They're like, I want to go up there. If you went to a group of like mountaineers and hikers and you were like, hey, I got a helicopter for you, do you want to go to the top? They'd be like, no, I'm here to travel up the mountain. I want to go up the mountain, you know? And so it's that interesting idea of like, games are overcoming, you know, just defined challenges. It's not necessarily something that's so pared down. And I would even say, go further than that, that's entirely separate from a different type of game. So you have like different things that are just overcoming very basic obstacles, right? So you have, you know, the classic games of like, you want to get over stuff and we're just going to throw things in your way. And you can see that a lot with mechanically based games. You know, platformers are a good example. That's what a lot of people go to. Puzzle games are a good example. I think there's also rooms for games as an experience, as an experiential art. I don't know if that's how you spell that. Experiential, there you go. And my examples for this are things like The Beginner's Guide. The Beginner's Guide is one of two games, excuse me, one of two games that I've seen that actually makes use of the fact that there is a personal connection to the person playing the game. The other one is The Outer Wilds. The Outer Wilds lets, you know, you explore a world and figure it out organically, which is fun. It's a very personal sort of journey. There are other knowledge-based games where it's like, if you have to learn the puzzles, and you can, if you know them, you know them. But Outer Wilds does a thing where it's very much just about your experience through that world. And it does a lot of meditating on that. The Beginner's Guide does something really cool, which is it makes a second person story. We talk a lot about first-person stories, I, third-person, you. Or third person they, rather. Second person is you. It's literally, the game starts and someone's talking to you. Someone's, you the player, I'm going to tell you a story. And the entire rest of the game is about that. There is no arbitrary block, right? In Outer Wilds, you could definitely say splits the difference on this, because there is a goal to get to at the end. And the block is sort of like your own knowledge of the world. But the Beginner's Guide doesn't really have an artificially defined challenge. It is a story being told at you. You might like the indifferent wonder of an edible place. That doesn't look edible, you lied to me. Oh, now it does. Cool fracture simulation. A Different Wonder of an Edible Place is a story about a building eater consuming a town in a town condemned to be removed from history. It ponders the violence of erasure and the profound grief of surviving the edge of despotism when places of entangled heritage are willfully effaced. It's free. Save that for later. Good pondering game. Yeah, there was another game that's sort of along this line of like experiential sort of stuff, and I can't remember what it was. I saw a video essay including it. I really like video essays. Jacob Geller is a pretty popular one. It was in this one, the specific time. Oh, you haven't heard of him? Let's see. Now I'm trying to think of thinky games that play with the player. Lots of good video essays. One of the more prominent ones. I follow a lot of video essayists. I like absorbing information, you know. I'm not super big on like just whatever entertainment, you know, kind of content, abnegation stuff. But I like the thinkies. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that he does videos on that's like more experimental games and things like that, things that play with this sort of experiential art perspective. Have you played The Beginner's Guide, or have you seen that one? One thing that's kind of hard is that this is where a lot of the categories, like, you know, you can get a lot from the, you know, experiential art category by just observing it through someone else playing it. But I do think there's a case to be made that if they're designed well, there's a lot to be taken from it as a player, you know. But I think that's something that's still being experimented with. I don't think this area is as well developed as this area. I think that works. Question mark? Yeah, okay, sure. Oh, not that. So, I might need to have an area, but I don't know how big to make it. This whole, like, collision thing is really bugging me. I can have this area 2D. I can make it give an exception for its parent. Let's make it a bit bigger. I'm wondering how long I should stream for. I hate that I can think of a game, but I can't remember what it is to share it. Yeah, names are hard. I forget words every other sentence. Overlapping bodies. Nope. Add religion. How do I make a collision exception? Where did you put that? Add collision exception with. Not dad collision exception with. Encore. You know, a lot of itch.io games, which I appreciate because I have not explored it as much as I want to. Game about ending things. Play a stage technician who takes care of things after this evening's performance is over. I like the art style. I always like that, like, Paper Mario style. 24th game? Aw, come on. These people are crazy, man. These people are crazy. Oh, oops. Maybe I'll just collect up all your suggestions and play them on stream. Dumpling.love. don't know if dumpling is so much a game as an experience, and yeah, those are more experiences with game elements. Atwell. Atwell. Oh, I found the river. Downloadable documentary game. Yeah, I think you'll probably like some of the Jacob Geller videos about weird experimental game things, because a lot of them are very much those experiences with game elements. This one's very pink. It's like a Katamari Damacy kind of deal. Which actually, like, this reminds me that Pablo might like one Waskotanash. Right? Since similar things. Pablo? Who is Pablo? One of the devs on Atwell. We met at a conference. Very nice person doing lots of interesting work. What kind of work? I think collabed on Union Drive? You see, this is the thing that I really like about this stuff, is there's a lot of people who know a lot of people, and I know 0 people. Game arts. Can I do it the other way around? Can I do add collision exception with area? Game Arts International Network runs a conference for folks working in game arts. That's cool. My hands are gone. Those two statements are unrelated. Why does it not work? That's so lame. Yeah, that I have not got to a lot of conferences. I've not really gone to I've not really gotten to find a good community for myself. I've kind of just been doing it on my own for a while, so it's always really interesting to hear people who have a lot of those connections. Never pay for conferences or events. Why not? I'm unfamiliar. Also, stop being invisible. What the heck? Did I turn it off on accident? Yeah, I did. Silly. You're doing it now. I mean... I think one of the hardest things for a lot of the people out there, like myself, who work very much like on their own, just sort of doing their job, is that the connections, networking itself is a feedback loop. So if you don't know anybody, it's hard to know people. If you do know people, it's easier to get to know other people. But even then, like, the amount of collaboration that you can have with people who are experts goes down. If you have somebody who's interested in things, like, you could find somebody to talk about coffee and the weather everywhere. but who exactly am I going to sit there and talk to about genetic algorithms, right? So I think that's one of the things, is there's not a lot of intentional spaces for specific interests. Because you can likely go for free, volunteering, they often give away free tickets, or do speaking, call, all get you in for free. Coffee and weather is boring, though. Send cold emails to PhD students. That sounds wild. Most people want to talk about the things they enjoy. Yeah, I agree with that. I think there is that trap, though, of like, although we can talk to more people than we ever have been able to in the history of time, the amount of people who have the capability to collaborate and to work on something together is ironically going down. You know? If it's a thing you're interested in, just ask and see if they're down. Like that's always the issue that I run into, is that when people talk about talking to others, it always ends up being like, oh yeah, if you want to know something, go ahead. You know, it's like, that's not really what I'm there for. That's what Google's there for. You know, I don't think that's what people are there for. I'm not seeking out people as sources of information. You know, it's about collaboration. It's about doing things with people. There's a lot of people that I could talk to, but having one-off interactions that you kind of just have to like babysit and like, you know, hey, how's it going, once a week. I don't know if that's precisely the thing that I'm looking for. You know? I think a lot of people have a lot of friends, but not a lot of people have a lot of collaborators. Not a lot of people find like people who are interested in doing what they want to do. I don't know if that makes sense. To each their own. I essentially, at this point in my life, ask people directly, but that's likely autism, so whatever works for you makes the most sense. What is happening? Where is this getting printed out? I'm confused. Oh, it's probably this. No? Yeah, I don't know where this is getting printed out. I don't know why it's happening every time I hit the space bar. Because it should just be doing this. Why is it still showing? Or is that wrong? Okay, no, that's wrong. One of my stream things isn't updating. Oops. It's still happening. Even though I disabled this. Heavily confused. I'm gonna restart the program, because sometimes Godot doesn't have fun. Sorry if announcing a much as a kill the vibe, mainly doesn't mean to commiserate. No, I don't mind. I just am confused by this bug. I don't care. I think there's a really interesting sort of a group of people that are starting to figure out more about themselves, you know, via social media and stuff. I think a lot of those terms deserve a lot more digging into. You know, I'm always skeptical of things that come from, you know, sketchy places, we'll say, and it's like, I don't know the whole thing about it. I haven't done a ton of research on it, but I know that like ADHD and stuff came from like attention deficit disorder, and like a lot of these things that were just sort of made as diagnoses for, you know, doctors just throwing their hands up in the air and being like, I don't know what's wrong with this kid. You know, there's a lot of sketchy medical practices and stuff that all of this stuff comes from. But I think I don't have any problem with people who are autistic. I don't have any problem with people, you know, trying to figure out what their deal is. There's a whole study on it. It's Mad Studies. Let me see. As a field of scholarship, theory, and activism about the lived experiences of people who identify as mad, mentally ill, psychiatric survivors, customers. Yeah, that is cool. There's a lot of stuff about these things I want to know more about, because it's like mental health is something that has not been focused on a lot in America for a long time, and it's sort of like, I'm interested to see what the mechanics are and what is that people are like, oh, this is something that needs medication, versus something that's like, hey, maybe they're just, you know, in a bad job. Maybe just like the people around them are not the greatest, you know. And that's always that really interesting and hard interplay, is like most of medical science has, well, not most, I should say, but a lot of medical science has like a definitive marker, right? Like if your bone's broken, you can see the bone is broken. But I worry that a lot of people are trying to classify things in brain space, you know, based solely off of if they work in society or not. Like, it's like, does that kid not sit still in class? He's got a disorder. That's what it is, you know? A lot of it's trying to make sure you're a better worker or make sure you're doing well. Yeah. That's one of the things I'm always worried about, you know? Especially a lot of, because it's like, there's a lot of kids who are trying to figure themselves out, and that's good, but is it helpful to use the definitions of a worker to describe a child? I don't know. That gives me a little pause. I think there's a lot of people out there trying to define themselves by something, and I've always been somebody who wanted to be, you know, not easily put into a box. I think people have a lot of variance. I think people have a lot of potential. I think people have a lot of different capabilities, you know? You think about the variables that go into a human, they're incredibly vast, and trying to pin it down to just like, oh yeah, you're, what was that, Myers-Briggs test or whatever? Yeah, you're 4 letters, that's it. That's all that makes up your personality. I'm like, that's a little silly. I think if you think about that for a second, you'll realize that's probably not enough information to cover every single personality type. That's why I like whenever he makes games, there's so much variance that comes out of it. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing behind creation, right? It's like, you could ask, you know, 100 people to paint an apple, and you'll get a different experience of that apple. It's the old question of like, do I see the same red as you do? Myers-Briggs is just astrology for finance people. Finance people are just bordering on like cult behavior of like, you know, just hoping and praying and coming up with different conspiracies about why things work. Some of the most conspiratorial people I know are finance people, and I'm like, money is made up. I would rather grow a fruit. I would rather have space to walk than money. You know, it's that idea of money versus wealth. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I need to move on to something else. This is one of my problems with coding on stream, is that it's like, it does not, if you're properly interacting with the audience, it does not give you enough brain space to actively work through problems in an efficient manner, you know? It's kind of like, why are you trying to do 2 things at once? When were you planning on having that critique stream? I don't know, I was gonna run a test in the work with Indies Discord with another mod. Which is the 20... Yeah, I didn't know there was a work with Indies Discord, which is the 20th. We want to do one for Twitch. That's one of the things that I think is a little bit problematic, is that there's the highest amount of community is on Discords, and it's like one of those things that's very hard to find, you know? Like, it's not like you could just go browse through Discords like you can Twitch or YouTube channels. Yeah, I hate Discord becoming the replacement for forums. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's at the bottom. Nope, not under that. Synchronous chat can be awesome, but there's a time and place. What do you mean by synchronous chat? Like, wouldn't all chat be synchronous? Am I losing my mind? I guess comments would be asynchronous. Yeah, wouldn't... The only time I can think of a time where you would be chatting with somebody, Reddit is asynchronous. Forums and stuff. I've never heard it described that way. I guess I'm thinking of synchronous in the time space of like everyone's experiencing things at the same time. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I like being able to browse a help forum before asking a question, not being able to join Discord and have everyone roll their eyes and be like, oh, everyone's asking that. Yeah, that's one of the problems too, is that Discord is really encouraging for people who suck to group up with other people who suck and then just have their own little hole to go into. Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of issues with Discords becoming very toxic and bad. There's a lot about the internet that incentivizes the highest level of interaction, and usually the people with the highest level of interactions can be a bit much. They can be kind of fanatical. So also children have a lot of free time, which is, we don't really want to incentivize them to become the mods of every Discord. I don't have a reference to the tile map, do I? Sure. Okay, how about this? Head collider is body 2D. Then we're going to add child. Cast on Kid Collider. Kids online spook me. As someone who's very online as a kid, I can't imagine what it's like now, which makes me feel old, but like, I hope they're doing okay given the state of the internet. I kind of was from the opposite, but it's like, I never really got into that as a kid. I watched YouTube a lot, but I never got super heavy into any spaces where I was like interacting with people. Yeah, no, I think one of the things that's very scary is that as the real world becomes more untenable for connections, for people hanging out, everyone gets scared, like fear of the other, the serial killers around every corner, you know, don't look at that guy the wrong way, kind of that fear crops up, people flock to the internet, and the internet is built to prey on people. That's like, you know, it used to be free. It used to be open access roads, and then it all got monetized. So now it's like, it's kind of rough, you know. Most of where kids find their connection is via people trying to sell them things now, and that's like a rough thing that we've allowed. It got super siloed. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, you think about the internet like it's a town, right? And it's like the roads used to be free to walk on, and now you gotta pay, and that's just ruined everything, you know. Is there like a move child? Yeah, there we go. Nope, that's not the right one. Let's try attach. And we'll put a pin joint here. This is always so messy. Join 2D dot node v. It's going to be whatever this is. Maybe left hand dot attach other. Well, first we gotta set them other dot position equals left hand dot position, which should snap. Oop. Why? Maybe you have to assign it to the path. Kinda. Close. A little bit. It's fun seeing it spin around, though. So I might need to wait a bit. Oh. Excuse me. Okay, well, it's definitely doing something. It's just not actively moving it, and I think it's because it's a rigid body. And rigid bodies don't like that. I'm probably gonna end around noon and then send everyone over towards Mr. Fox Hollow Games. I'm still trying to figure out this whole streaming thing. I'm trying to figure out what I want out of it, what would be best for people, how to build it into something bigger than just like a Let's Play channel or something. Trying to figure it all out. Trying to look up how to move rigid bodies because they can't be set normally. But I don't know of another way to do this where it's not busted. Very chill space. Yeah, I think a lot of the internet is based off of spectacle. It's about attention grabbing and shouting and crazy and oh my god, what if this is true? And I'm like, not about that, man. I don't know how to do this. This is giving me problems. Is that true? Yeah, okay, well that works. That's really funny. Okay. I will eventually need something that faces the hands the same way that the body is. I'm going to make this a lot stricter of a pin joint. I can't. And that works. It's kind of giving it weird behavior because it's flicking all around. But I think that's also because it's not locking the rotation towards the way that this is. Let me see if I can do that actually. Angular force, torque. Do 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 Do, 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 do. The problem with Fox Hollow Games is that he has such a cool username, but it's a bit of a mouthful, and then also his name is Joe, which just feels not as cool as Mr. Fox Hollow Games. I always feel weird calling people by real names on the internet. Like, that's not what you do. I like there to be a separation between people, real people, and the stuff they do online. Target direction. Okay, that's a lot better. Now it's like a boxing glove. It might have gotten a bit off center last time too. And it's weighing it down more so it doesn't go as far as the original punch. That worked way better than I thought it was going to. I thought it was not going to be that good at all. Turns out I'm a genius. Okay, what else can I do here? Oops. So I have basic equipping. Let me make sure it doesn't mess up while I'm moving. No, that still seems to be working. Try moving and punching. No, that works really well. Cool. I want to work on going through the walls, but I still need to figure out the collision issue. Probably the best thing to do for that is to make my own custom weird little thing. Considering Cast Ray doesn't work on the hands. Do this. Change this so it's not as exactly the same color as everything else. You said that you saw, or that you knew of, Dimension 20 and stuff. Are you into tabletop things? Tabletop roleplay games? D&D, all that? Okay, yeah, that's a lot better. Tabletop games have always interested me because they seem to be a very good... Don't really play them because it's hard to schedule, yeah. They always seem very interesting to me because it's like the easiest to iterate on out of anything in terms of game design. Like, you're like, how about no implementation? How about we just do it? But yeah, it's one of those things that I've never really played because it requires a good amount of heavily dedicated people. What the heck? I don't know why those just went crazy for a second. Yeah, what is doing that? Oh. Oh, that's something for another day. I'm gonna change this. No, I'm just gonna do key presses for now. Okay, so the only change here is we're going to do the right hand. E and R. Now, if there's only some way to actually destroy things so that I can have more than one item. E and R was the wrong buttons, but that's okay. I'm trying to keep in mind console while I'm going through this, but that's very hard considering the amount of buttons I want. It makes me really appreciate how complicated some of the character controllers in other games are. Okay, so that's working. There is no good way that I have right now to detect where it's getting hit enough to actually find the square on the tile map. Is there a way around that? Center mass, And I'm sure this will only get worse once I equip things, because then it's going to be colliding with that. No, actually. These things just hate colliding. Oh, there, it got one. While I was right up against it. I could change it to target based off of the raycast. The raycast dot get collision point if raycast is colliding. Else It'll be global position plus raycast target position. Yeah, I know, let's define somewhere else, right? Oh no, it just doesn't have a type. First, let's see if this works. Okay, that's going very sideways. Is the raycast not moving with me? Oh, there we go. Oh, it should be. Oh. Global position plus raycast target position dot rotated by global rotation. I don't like writing lines that long, but I also like inlines, so... Okay, that's way better, actually. I like that a lot better. Even than what I was doing before. The more consistency you can give in a chaotic system, the less people are gonna feel like cheated, you know? If you need to scroll, throw it out as a line of code. I say it's a terrible program with extremely inefficient code. Yeah, I generally try not to have anything that scrolls horizontally. That always becomes a problem when you change like screen size. Like if I'm coding on my laptop, the screen is a lot smaller, and I like to cut up my screen into multiple sections. That's why I have the inspector over here on this stuff. So it's one of those things that's just like, you gotta take it with a grain of salt. Realistically, this isn't that bad, you know? Especially if you actually comment your code like I never do. If you're the only one looking at it, that's a problem only for future you. Yeah, well, I mean, the hope is that it wouldn't be. A lot of the games that I want to make, I want to sort of build up the base of it, and then I want to move on to, like, possibly, you know, putting it in the public domain or making it open source, you know? I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do when you open things up to collaboration. But right now, I'm kind of just focusing on do the first thing, you know, get it working and then come back later. Where do you want to see the project go? This is sort of the project I had in mind for, let me just dump all my ideas out and see what works. So right now it's just a pretty easy, like, run around action RPG thing, but I want to add a lot of the simulation kind of stuff that I like. So I want it so that there are, you know, floors to the cave, and they have their own NPCs that have their own intelligent AI. You know, if they run across something that's valuable, they'll pick it up. If they see an enemy that's too strong, they'll run away. Stuff like that. I want to add building, like, quote unquote building mechanics, but just like, I want it so that, I assume if you checked out Dwarf Fortress, yeah, I've seen Dwarf Fortress. I haven't played it a ton because I don't really like sitting at my computer for too long. I like doing console games and stuff like that. And last time I tried it on Steam Deck, it did not really work that well. That's one of the issues that I have with a lot of this stuff. It's like I think there's a lot of cool stuff you do online. I'm a tech guy for sure. That's, you know, that's undeniable. However, I do have a body, and that body likes to be in physical space, you know? And I'm like, you know, as much as I'm glad that I was born in an era with technology and all the cool stuff it can do, I kind of feel like we're missing out on, like, people used to just meet up in real life and do things and start businesses. That's crazy. I don't even know what a real life person looks like. Oh, you know what, actually, I think instead of coding on stream, just going through and cleaning up code on stream would be way better. That seems like a much easier activity to do while also talking to people. Generally, they have like n plus or minus 1 arm. Generally. We are inclusive of any armed people in this stream. I don't care if you're a Hekatonkery or what. One of the problems that I run into is that all of the things that I want to work on are very forward facing. You know, I'm very unwilling to just like have an idea and then just leave it and just be like, yeah, there you go, I did it. I made a platformer, woo, you know. I want to make things and I want them to proliferate. You know, I want it to be something that goes beyond me. And that makes it hard to do small projects, right? So, there's my stubbornness. So now that we have this collision point, if it's colliding, let's get rid of that. Don't need that. However, if raycast dot get collider is the tile map, then let's just do this because I'm gonna need it in more spot than one. Collider. Plus linear velocity. Dot normalized. Just nudge it. Nudge it in the right direction, please. Why are you going way over there? What? Start boxing some ghosts. Okay, that's weird. Oh. Maybe that's not exactly the place that I wanted to go. Okay. Oh. Close. We're close. Having him go slower is actually a lot better. I'll probably eventually make the tiles smaller than this, but right now they're kind of at an awkward shape. I have an idea. Okay. Are you going to be starting up your stream soon? Let's do... If I just do that, it's not going to affect it correctly. Oh, whoa. Oh, that's kind of fun. Okay, it only works with the left hand because I haven't implemented otherwise yet. Right? Yeah, left hand. Well, that works semi enough. Done is always best. Yeah. And now this is the issue I was anticipating. When it goes left or up, it's going to have an issue because of the way that the coordinate system works. Cast dot target position dot normalize. Shipped is the best feature. Yeah. Alright, I gotta head out today. Thanks for sharing progress. See ya. Yeah, I'm gonna hop off here in a second, so I'll send over basically just the 2 people I got to you, but see you later. See you in a second. Minus 8.0 maybe. That should PEMDOS out, right? Nope. Oh, that's right. It's got to be rotated. That's the wrong one. I ran out of heart pound. It started going crazy. Well, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking. Let me know if you want to have any help with critique streams or anything like that. I always like to, you know, try to be of use. Try to give good feedback and all that. But I am going to head off in a bit. And thanks Fortune's Favorite for also hanging out, for lurking. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. I'm glad it was nice. I'm still figuring it out. We'll wait till Mr. Fox Hello Games is ready, and then we'll send on over his way. He usually starts at noon on the dot because he is much more organized. I'm glad I got this stuff working. Next thing I'm going to do is make it so that they drop from getting destroyed, and also that I can't destroy floor tiles and stuff. Although it seems to be doing a good job as it is. I'll also probably do something where I move it to the respective hands instead of coming out of the center. I appreciate all the recommendations you made. I have like 6 tabs I need to look at now. Oh yeah, this was something else I worked on for testing things out. One of the ideas I had for the AI was to basically give them a LiDAR sensor. So this should, I don't know. I think I broke it. Let's see, but using a LiDAR sensor like that lets them sort of see the surroundings well enough without taxing too much of the memory, since you're only doing one raycast a frame. Let's see. Got no impulse right now. Well, it should be doing something at least. Oh no, I broke it. It was working at some point. I have so many things in here that I've just like no idea how to do it properly. I have no idea what they do. I've just run through it and tested it all out. Okay, I'm going to head out. Everyone go say hi to this guy. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. I don't know if it's working. Have a good day. Thanks, you too. I am brain tired. Start raid. There we go, now it's working. Goodbye, have fun. Learn many things, explore all the horizons.